In the future, energy will be free.
That means no more pesky electric bills. But how is this possible? Well, we use energy for everything, literally everything. We use energy to power our light bulbs, to desalinate water, to drive our cars. Energy is everywhere. How are we going to make energy free? Well, it all has to do with how much energy we have. Abundance. If we have an enormous abundance of energy, it can be free. Just like there's an enormous abundance of computer chips, they've dropped dramatically in price. Supply and demand, if you will. When there's so much supply, the price goes down. We've seen it with oil recently. And how are we going to get to that enormous amount of abundance? Well, largely in part by renewable. Yes, renewable energy. It's really the tenet of how we're going to build our energy infrastructure in the future. And for sake of brevity, I'll talk about two renewables today, wind and solar. These are the two main renewables which will help power our future and hopefully bring us free energy. But there's also fusion, which I'll cover a little bit later. So we'll start with wind power. Wind power has the potential to power all our energy needs, but wind also has a couple of major drawbacks. First of all, you have to be in a windy place, so that could be the Great Plains or coastal areas. Second, you have to be really high up where the wind is the strongest and where you actually generate a decent amount of energy. So that's why if you've seen wind turbines, they're extremely high up.
Expounding further on the benefits of wind power, we can say that wind is already living up to the expectations. In fact, the only other renewable that currently provides the United States with more power is conventional hydroelectric power generation. Wind is growing at breakneck speeds, having seen massive growth in 2015, with 8.1 gigawatts of capacity being added. This year, growth is expected to slow a little, but with what is still a massive increase of 6.8 gigawatts in added capacity. Now, building upon some of the drawbacks to wind power is, of course, as we mentioned, the location in which turbines must be placed, which is usually in naturally windy areas and along coastal areas. This consequently leads to a problem with transmission, as getting energy to faraway places from wind-generated power is not practical due to the loss of energy that naturally occurs during transmission. This, in essence, localizes wind power, but of course that pertains to any form of energy production, the only difference being that you can install solar panels most anywhere and build a coal plant as well, which eliminates the localization problem. This is a potential problem for wind until better methods of electricity transmission come along.
If wind has the potential to power all our energy needs, then solar has the potential to do it 10,000 times over. Yes, even with contemporary solar panels, which only have an efficiency of around 20%, we have the potential to power our whole planet by only covering an area the size of Spain. So, relatively speaking, that's not a huge area. And that's only with contemporary solar panels. It's already been demonstrated in the laboratory that panels can have an efficiency of up to 40%, and they'll keep going higher as technology advances. So yes, solar is the ultimate renewable energy.
Yes, solar is the ultimate renewable energy, and it is indeed feasible to only utilize a landmass the size of Spain, though strategically located where the sun shines the most. So this brings me to the drawbacks of solar power. Solar is oftentimes intermittent due to the fact that we don't control the weather yet, so we are at the mercy of overcast and rainy days. There is of course also the issue of there being night, so how are we going to get energy during the night with no sun shining? There are of course solutions. Controlling the weather is a bit far off, but we can store energy so that when the sun shines brightly, we will have plenty for the night or maybe even a couple of days. Energy storage is something that a lot of companies are chasing right now, and perhaps most notably Tesla. Yes, the same Tesla that makes electric vehicles is making batteries for home use and for commercial use to ameliorate this very problem. In fact, you can buy these solutions on their website today.
And of course, when talking about potential energy sources of the future, you can never forget fusion. I'm sure you've heard of fusion. Fusion is really the holy grail of energy. With fusion, we'll have basically unlimited energy. Fusion is the process through which the sun creates energy. And as we know, the sun is massively powerful. Imagine having a sun basically here on Earth. That's what we're talking about with fusion.
So you might be thinking, well sure, there's the potential for energy to be basically unlimited, but do you really think it's going to be free? Well, yes and no. It depends on us, as so many things do. These methods of producing energy will become so cheap and will have such potential to produce massive amounts of energy that the cost of actually producing energy will plummet. The only cost will be the initial manufacturing, which will in the future most likely be provided by robots, which means the labor costs will be near negligible. There will also be the maintenance and installation costs, which will of course also be done robotically and autonomously, so the overall cost will only be slightly more than raw materials. However, even without being contingent on robotics, with human labor the cost would still be extremely low, to the point where you might be paying a penny on the tax dollar and never have to worry about an electric bill again. There is certainly the potential to have unlimited energy, and for free. But if for some reason it fails to materialize, it's most likely due to incompetent elected officials.